The MonsterVerse is filled with titans that could wake up and level entire cities before breakfast. But what if you wanted to make them even more overpowered? In today's video, I'll be building the ultimate MonsterVerse monster by taking the top monsters across a range of traits and combining them into one. But before we get into it, there's one rule. I can only take one trait from each monster, so for example, if I use Godzilla for his raw attack power, I can't also use him for his durability. First things first, our monster needs a name, so let's call it Titan Omega, the one who ranks even above the alphas. To start off, we need to define this monster's size, and you know that it has to be absolutely massive to maximize its destructive potential. So for size, I've selected Shimo. At a massive height of over 532 feet, this icy titan is larger than even the likes of Behemoth and Ghidorah. Ancient cultures in the South Pacific had a name for her, the monster whose breath makes the ocean into stone. That's not a nickname you earn by being small. Her sheer physical presence was enough to go toe-to-toe with both an evolved Godzilla and Kong simultaneously, making it the perfect foundation to build our monster. But size means nothing without the strength to make use of it, so for that trait, I'm going with the Muto Prime. Known in ancient mythology as the Earthquake Beetle, this monster is absolutely insane, as it was the natural predator of Godzilla's species. What's even crazier is that they were actually successful, and Godzilla's species was nearly driven to extinction by the Muto Prime. The specimen we see in the modern era had 4 limbs stronger than even Godzilla's, and she could knock him back with a single blow. Muto Prime's legs were so powerful that each step generated tremors strong enough to be heard for miles and to stabilize actual fault lines. And here's the craziest part. The Muto Prime we know today defeated 17 members of Godzilla's species, making it one of the most prolific killers in the MonsterVerse. Okay, so we've got a monster the size of a skyscraper with the strength to take out Godzilla, but now we need to make it so fast that nothing can escape. For speed, I've picked Rodan, the Fire Demon, also known as the King of the Skies. As we saw in the 2019 movie, this monster can fly faster than the speed of sound and outpace the speediest supersonic jets, making it the fastest titan in the entire MonsterVerse. Rodan was also capable of overwhelming Mothra in an aerial battle, and while he ended up losing the fight, it certainly wasn't because of a lack of speed. We're looking at a creature that can cross entire continents in minutes, but something this massive and fast would be clunky in actual combat. So to prevent that, I'm taking the agility of one of the most disturbingly nimble predators in the franchise, the Skullwalker. Think about it. These things move on 2 forelimbs, have no hind limbs, and yet they move with such precision and fluidity that they can't be pinned down. What stands out about skullcrawlers is the way they twist, dodge, and counterattack while using their prehensile tails with incredible dexterity. The Skull Devil, the alpha skullcrawler from Skull Island, was actually agile enough to hang with a fully grown Kong and even gain the upper hand in their fights. So far, we've built a monster with great offensive capabilities, but what about when it has to take a hit? For Titan Omega's durability, I've selected none other than Behemoth, the tusked beast that seems almost incapable of taking damage. Also known as the Mapinguari to locals in Brazil, this monster's most impressive defensive feature is its thick, dense fur that is essentially fireproof. Now, we don't know the limits of what Behemoth's fur can keep out, but even without that, Behemoth's overall physical durability is extraordinary. This monster tanked everything Amhuluk threw at him in the Amazon, and kept fighting while his tusks regenerated, making Behemoth the perfect pick for durability. Raw power is great, but intelligence lets underdogs beat even the most powerful opponents, meaning that the Titan Omega needs to be the smartest of them all. So for intelligence, I've picked the one Titan who consistently demonstrates human-level strategic thinking, King Kong. Kong doesn't have impenetrable armor and is actually much smaller than most of his adversaries, which means he would lose every time in an all-out brawl. He wins battles using his problem-solving skills. He creates and uses tools while turning the battlefield itself against his enemies. Think about it. Kong figured out how to use a Hollow Earth energy weapon, formed alliances with humans and monsters alike, and made tactical decisions that turned the tide of battles. Putting Kong's intelligence into our monster means every one of its overwhelming physical advantages gets multiplied by a mind that can actually use them to their fullest potential. So far, none of the traits we have make Titan Omega stats really unfair, so let's go ahead and give him a healing factor. And for that, I'm choosing King Ghidorah, because this extraterrestrial titan's healing factor is arguably the most broken ability in the entire MonsterVerse. We saw Godzilla physically rip off one of his heads during their clash at Ilha de Mara, and within minutes, Ghidorah had completely regrown it. And it's not even just heads that Ghidorah can regrow. As long as he still has living flesh, Ghidorah can regenerate any part of his body. The only constraint on this ability is that it requires tremendous amounts of energy, like the volcano that Ghidorah used to bring back his head. But given that our monster has the speed and agility to make his way to an energy source in an emergency, this gives him the perfect setup to exploit Ghidorah's already broken healing factor. Together with Behemoth's natural armor, you know you're looking at something that's functionally unkillable. Okay, but now let's get back to going on the offensive, because our monster still needs to be able to take out any adversaries that come before it. Shimo's Ice Breath would be a great contender here, but since we already used her for size, I'm going to go with the next best option, Godzilla's Atomic Breath. You might think Godzilla's breath is just another superheated blast, but nothing could be further from reality. Godzilla's Atomic Breath is hypercharged nuclear radiation, fired as a concentrated beam that has high enough energy to cut through entire city blocks and carve craters into the ocean floor. In his thermonuclear form achieved in King of the Monsters, Godzilla's pulse wiped out Ghidorah in seconds, making it the most powerful beam attack in the franchise. The only drawback of this attack is that it needs external energy and support from Mothra to achieve its full destructive potential, but Godzilla's regular Atomic Breath is still available with little to no drawbacks. Even in a weakened state, Godzilla's Atomic Breath was able to match Mechagodzilla's Proton Scream, meaning that its destructive potential is beyond anything that human technology can create. Now we have both range attacks and close combat sorted out, it's time to give Titan Omega a utility move to complement his offensive capabilities. For that, I have one of the most underrated special abilities in the entire MonsterVerse, Amhuluk's Biopathogenism. You see, technically, Amhuluk the monster is just a head and a spine, with the rest of his body being an assembly of plant matter that's controlled telekinetically. The range of Amhuluk's abilities is what makes him truly terrifying. He can extend or fire his limbs across distances with enough force to break off one of Behemoth's tusks. Additionally, Amhuluk possesses toxin emitters capable of poisoning entire oceanic channels and rivers, and the ancients describe him as a demon of pestilence. Now we've got offense, defense, and utility covered, but there might be some threats that exist beyond my imagination, so I need to have a failsafe for that. The best way to go about this is to make sure that Titan Omega is capable of wielding tools that can cover up any deficiencies in his abilities. So when it comes to mastery over weapons and tools, once again I have a pretty easy pick in Scar King. In terms of strength and power, Scar King is outranked by virtually every MonsterVerse character, but this oversized ape somehow managed to dominate and control Shimo. True, he had a pain-inducing crystal shard, but it takes significant skill to systematically torture a Titan and bend them to your will. Scar King also has incredible mastery over his whip, forged from a Titan spine, which allowed him to defeat Kong in single combat on their first encounter. He used it for range, control, and redirection, building an entire system of combat around that signature weapon. Scar King's weapon mastery means our monster could wield any tool with devastating precision, giving him the ability to turn anything into a lethal advantage. And finally, we need Titan Omega to have great reflexes so that he can respond to attacks in time to make use of his abilities. Now this may feel like cheating, but he's technically part of the MonsterVerse, so for reflexes, I'm choosing Mechagodzilla. Think about it, this is Ghidorah's consciousness merged with processing power that outpaces anything that an organic brain could possibly achieve. This mecha has unbelievably fast reaction times and combat reflexes that allowed it to overpower and dismantle a fully grown skullcrawler before it could even land a single hit. When fully powered, Mechagodzilla had the reflexes to take on both Kong and Godzilla simultaneously, and the only reason it lost was because they worked together in a moment of perfect timing. So finally, we have Titan Omega, standing at over 500 feet tall, with speed and agility that seem physically impossible. With its range of offensive abilities, Titan Omega is a monster capable of ending eras. But what do you think? Could I have made it even more overpowered? Let me know your suggestions in the comments down below.